All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of The Potential Project. I'm your host, Sean Calhoun, and if you're here, it's because you're ready to reduce stress, burn stubborn fat, and get your body working with you instead of against you. On this podcast, we're all about simple, no BS strategies for fitness, nutrition, and lifestyle. This way, you can feel strong, confident, and in control. I'll give you the tools, mindset shifts, and habits to help you look and feel your best without spending hours in the gym or stressing over every single meal. Now, let's get into it. All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of The Potential Project. I'm your host, Sean Calhoun, and today we have a very special guest. I know I've been doing a lot of solo episodes, talking a lot about specifically health, women's health, and a lot of different habits and tactics that you can do to improve. But I absolutely love having on guests. This way I don't have to ramble at you for 30 minutes and we get to share someone else's story. So our guest today, we came across our paths because we're both on a similar mission, and that is to help you live a healthier, happier life. So without further ado, Nick Gaul, how you doing, man?
Hey, Sean, thanks for having me. With some of your other guests, I'm kind of honored to be here. Hopefully I can live up to those standards.
Yeah, absolutely. So Nick actually came in and took a class at the studio a little while ago, and we connected, and I learned a little bit more about his story. So that's what we're going to share today. So to kind of give you guys an idea of what's going on, and then we'll back up and listen to Nick's story, is like Nick has an incredible app, a fitness app that is helping change tons of people's lives through what we were talking about before, like the psychology of how your brain works. So let's back up though. Nick, tell us about how you got into fitness, health. Like, how did that become like your focus in life right now?
Yeah, so as a kid, I was always active, always played sports, intramural basketball, multiple basketball teams, soccer, and then just in the neighborhood, we were always playing backyard football, baseball, whatever that was. And I loved being active. As I got older, I was pretty much always overweight in some fashion, and I always wanted to be in shape, and I just could never figure it out. Every time I tried to get in shape, it would result in some type of burnout, frustration, and then me quitting and ultimately being too intimidated to start again. But yeah, that's the app is kind of a decade plus of going through years and years of that, and then in 2020 is kind of when I had that shift, that mindset shift that allowed me to break through.
Okay. So we're going to take it back to childhood. So I also grew up doing the same thing. Backyard football, every day we were doing something. Did you have siblings or neighborhood kids? Like, how was that set up?
Yeah, we had a really close neighborhood. It was awesome. I had my one best friend lived right down the street, had a big group of friends. Where I lived was right next door was like a retention basin. So like it was like my house was known as the house everyone goes to after school to play football. So
Nice.
it's pretty much every day was some type of activity. And then even younger, like we would play manhunt all the time and everything.
Love manhunt.
Yeah.
Manhunt was the best.
Yeah.
Tell people at school, hey, wear your black tonight. We're playing,
Right.
playing manhunt. What age were you? Like, how old were you when you started to say, like, hey, I feel like I'm not as fit, or maybe, like, what was the noise going on in your head? Were you calling yourself fat? Like, what was that like?
It was actually pretty early on. I was thinking about it before the podcast, and it even like middle school is when I felt like I wasn't in shape. And it was funny. It was during lunch, and I was sitting with like a lot of my really good friends and everything. And one of our friends would always give up his fries. And one day, I was like, yeah, I don't want them. And like every other person's like grabbing for him, and my one friend's like, there's Nick again. He always gets like this time of year, and it's usually like around like when the weather starts turning. So then I'll like kind of restrict myself, and had a lot of years where I just tried crazy things like isogenics, juice cleanses, you name it, P90X, things that really cause burnout. The opposite of what you want to do when you go like 8 months of not doing anything. So yeah, it was early age is when I started really realizing that I wanted to be in shape and I couldn't figure it out.
So around middle school, that's when the voices started creeping up in your head. Middle school's a tough age, man.
Yeah.
Like, I remember like, when I was younger, I had a mole on the back of my neck. And in the middle school age, you're so self-conscious
Right,
about
yeah.
like, how are you showing up in school, that I would walk around in the hallways
gosh,
literally with my shoulders scrunched up so that, God forbid, no one saw. And I did get it removed because I was like fed up with it.
Right.
But so what was your mental state like at that young of an age, thinking like, hey, I'm going into this school and like I don't like the way that I look or feel?
It would just constantly second guessing myself and having self doubt in myself. To it just I mean, eighth grade is such an early age to be like, oh, I want a six pack or something like that. But it's kind of like I just wasn't where I wanted to be. It definitely carried through like high school and then my and then into when I was 30. But yeah, it has an effect on you for sure when you're just not comfortable in your body and you know you could be doing more, and there's so many days that just go by and you look back and you're like, oh, I could have done more, or I could have done something different.
Did it hold you back from doing anything that you might have wanted to throughout? I mean, you said middle school, high school, and even the 20s. Like, did it stop you from doing things?
I'm sure it did. Nothing that I can think of glaring that it kind of prevented me. I'm sure, like, confidence wise, definitely like I just wasn't there at 100%. Just because I wasn't comfortable with where I was at. I felt overweight, but I wasn't like super overweight, but overweight enough that I wasn't proud of where I was at.
What are we talking? Like how in your eyes, or according to the doctor's charts, how overweight were you?
I definitely had a few doctors say I was overweight, but not. I would say 10 to 15 was like the average, and then as I got older, it got more and more like 20, 25, and then in 2020, I was, by most standards, 50 pounds overweight. And I was still working out and stuff, and I have these periods of being active, and that's what is like the hardest part. Is like I wasn't an inactive kid.
Yeah. Yeah, you're like, hey, I'm playing these sports, I'm doing these things, and I don't mean to keep like diving into this, but I think it's really important for people to understand the mentality and the toll that it takes on you and where your mind goes when you're going through all this. So you mentioned things like isogenics, juice cleanses. Bring me through, like, not step by step, but like, hey, when I was in middle school, I tried this, and then I got a little bit older, and then I started doing this. Like, what were some of the things that you were doing to try to lose weight?
The isogenics was early on. A couple of my friends did that. I lived down the shore in the summers.
Nice.
And so like being in shape was like something you would want even more because you're constantly on the beach or around the beach. So the isogenics, a couple of my friends did that with me. I think I did that like a couple times, and it's just insane what you do. Like you basically like drink like purple like juice for like 2 days. You don't eat. You eat like chocolates. I remember there was one time I was at work and like early, like I was probably like 24, and I was walking around. I was during isogenics, and I remember looking into one of my colleagues' eyes, and they're just like, yeah, Nick's not there. Like it was just like pale and white, and like I actually like they're like, you should go home. Like,
wow.
Yeah, so I took the train home, and just crazy things like that. I mean, but it was marketed. There was millions of other people doing isogenics, and it was just what I thought you needed to do to get in shape was just incredibly wrong, especially for me and what gets me motivated. The juice cleanses and stuff, I would go on like a 5-day juice cleanse, just juice, which a lot of people do, and it's definitely like super healthy for you if you can get through it. But I would do like 5 days, go on vacation, come home, and then just be like a completely different person. So I'm sure it wasn't good for my body.
So you were like, hey, we're about to have a trip or something.
Right,
Let's do this cleanse, get ourselves, burn a few pounds or something, feel good, and then go on vacation. What was your like exercise regimen, routine, like mindset towards fitness?
So it was, I needed some type of goal in the near future. So things that would get me motivated were like this time of year when the weather starts turning. If I had a vacation coming up, some type of event, beginning of the year, New Year's, everyone tells themselves this year's going to be different, and then 3 weeks later it's just not. So I needed like some type of like motivation, something external to get me motivated. Because I didn't know how to motivate myself internally, and I would go to the gym, and I remember like going to gyms and looking around and seeing these people going hard at their workouts and just not understanding like how these people had the motivation to do that. For me, it was basically the thought of maybe getting in shape was not enough to like push myself in the present moment, because I had so many failures before that. So it was kind of like, even if I did push myself that day, I still had the thought that like, oh, I'll burn out by next week, or I'm never going to keep this up.
Right.
And I was always right.
So it's like your mindset is that working out is hard. I have to push myself. It's physically demanding, right? Of course, we know that. And if I'm going to put myself through this pain just to be ending up in the same space that I had in the past, why am I going to continue doing this on a consistent basis? It makes no sense. And rightfully so. And we kind of all know that, like, to make a change in your health, to maybe make a change in your business or any big thing in life is not going to happen overnight, right? We know that, and you probably knew that in your head. You're like, hey, I might have 30, 40 pounds to lose. This didn't come on all at once. Like, you kind of had that mindset, right? Like, it wasn't going to happen quick, but it seems like trying to grab anything. Like, hey, people are getting results from isogenics. People are doing juice cleanses. People are working out. Like, let me try this. But let me ask, you said you were grabbing for external motivation. Hey, it's the New Year's. Hey, summer's coming up. Hey, I got a wedding to go to. Whatever it might be, you were trying to grab onto it. Seems like that wasn't enough. Was there any internal, like, this is my why, like, down to the core motivation at all?
No, and I think that's why I didn't last. It was really short-lived. Like, I want to get in shape for summer, but I didn't want to be in shape in general. Like, the thought of working out all year was like something that was like a non-negotiable. Like, that's just not me. So it was get in shape for summer, but then summer would hit and I would just go back to not working out. So even if I did lose 10, 15 pounds, which is probably the most I would, 3 weeks in, it was gone. And I think not having that internal mindset or goal, like a real goal than just wanting to look good on the beach, is what kept me from actually getting in shape.
Well, it's ironic though, because a lot of people have that mindset. Hey, I just want to I want to feel comfortable in a bathing suit. And I'm not against that, because that might be what it takes to get someone started. But I guess the question is you said you would do it for that external motivation, and then you said even a couple times you lost some weight. What about, like, usually that's like the motivating factor. Hey, I'm doing this thing. What happened where, like, hey, 10, 15 pounds in, you're like, fall off the wheel, just stop doing what you're doing?
I was doing too much for what I was ready for. Doing 8 months or years of nothing, and then trying to dive into someone else's program, someone else's vision of what fitness should be is really not. It's not sustainable. I feel like a 5-day juice cleanse, like I'm not gonna be able to do that weeks on end.
Right.
Isogenics is a month-long program. I think I lost 30 pounds. I know a couple friends lost similar, but it's just craziness, like what you have to do. And it's just not sustainable, what I was doing. And I was just burning out, and I was pretty much torturing myself into trying to get in shape versus really changing myself and rewiring my brain to want to be in shape and to make it easy for myself.
Yeah, that's super important to have that click internally to say, like, what's the motivation? Is it to just be healthy? And it seems like other people, like you mentioned, going down the shore, and one of your buddies a coworker was like, hey, like, something's off, right? Like, they could see it probably in your eyes and your facial expressions. Just, I know when I've seen people who have just given way too much energy to something, and their body's there, but they're not there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Exactly that, yep.
Okay. How long did that go on for, where you just felt like burnt out? Like, you just didn't know what was happening. You were just pushing it at both ends.
That was probably the most extreme time, but I remember that and vividly. But I think I did isogenics a couple times. And,
oh, wow.
Because it worked. So I was like, let me go back to it. Isogenics is like 5 days, and they tell you what to eat, and you really, like, it's a big calorie deficit. And then the first and second weekend is you drink just like this purple juice stuff that I'm sure is not approved somewhere or whatever.
You're scaring me.
I know.
I've never even looked into it, but I know I've heard of it.
I don't know if it's on the market anymore.
Purple juice.
And you'd feel horrible. But then when you woke up after like 2 days of pretty much cleansing, you felt great and you kind of pushed through. And I've seen documentaries since then of people fasting and stuff like that. And there's a way where it does work for sure. And it's healthy and it's great for you, and it kills off like the zombie cells, they call them, in your body. But like the way I was going about it was not right. But because I was seeing the short-term results, I kept going back to it. And because I didn't have motivation outside of the fact that, summer's a month away, the whole rest of the year I wasn't doing anything. And I couldn't get myself, summer's 10 months away. Like, why would I don't have another trip for 6 months. Like, why would I need to get in shape now?
Yeah, and if it was like not so much a grueling process, but if you didn't enjoy the way you felt, and the drinks maybe weren't the best tasting, or
Yeah.
like it wasn't a good experience, but at the time you're willing to go through that because it had led you to losing weight before.
Right. Yeah.
So it's like, hey,
Familiar.
I'll do this prior to summer or prior to a trip because I know it'll be my answer to drop a few pounds, and I'll suck it up kind of. But there's no way I'm doing this on a regular basis, 24/7 all
Right.
year, feeling shape. So I mean, if you would have told me this and we didn't explain your story, I wouldn't have believed you because you look good now. You're in shape. You look healthy. You look like you're here today. You're
Yeah.
not some like zombie. What was the thing that finally allowed you to get off of these like extreme modalities?
In 2020, it was the pandemic and a lot of time spent at home, and I got, for whatever reason, I was more into kind of like self-improvement and figuring out in career and fitness, like what makes people move forward, why some people get promotions over others. And one thing that I read early on was that high achievers set deadlines for themselves. And everyone at work will have like a deadline from their boss and things like that. But like deadlines just in life and in like outside of work that aren't just laid down to you, like your boss saying, oh, I need this by the end of the week. Like it's you putting a deadline against yourself. So when I read that, it clicked. It was like, that's what makes me motivated is these deadlines. And so I realized that I needed to somehow like push up that motivation that I get in April and May and this was December. And I was like, I need to push that up and somehow get myself motivated in the moment and something that will last. So I thought of that. And then I decided to make a spreadsheet for myself. And I put on there, I made a modest goal of 2 hours and 15 minutes. And I'm like, all right.
Amount of time, 2 hours and 15 minutes at
per
a time?
week.
Per week. Okay.
Yeah. And I'm like, all right, Nick, like push everything aside and just focus on this 2 hours and 15 minutes. Just get that, knowing that like, all right, I'm taking the slow way to get to my goal. But I was kind of just experimenting, let me just see if it works. Like, I know that like everyone says you got to like slow and steady wins the race and stuff like that. Which isn't what you want to hear. But like I kind of was just like, all right, let me just see if this works. But I remember staring at the spreadsheet and saying like, there's no way I'm going to follow this. I might follow it. Everything's easy in the beginning and I might follow it tomorrow, Monday. I think it was Sunday night. This was like a Sunday night thought. I might follow it Tuesday, but there's just no way. So I needed to like up the ante and the incentive. I had a thought. I knew my dad, who is 31 years older. He was 61 at the time. I knew he wasn't living a healthy lifestyle either. So I basically called him up and I was like, I'm adding you to this Google Doc. Pick a number of minutes you want to hit each week. And whatever activities you want to do, fill that in. But you pick your number, I picked my number, and I said, if you don't hit your goal at the end of the week, you have to Venmo me. And if I don't hit my goal, I have to Venmo you. And I got him to commit because he picked his own goal. So it wasn't like shoveling money back and forth. Like we were doing the bare minimum, just the base, to get things rolling. He picked an hour and a half. And I knew he had an hour and a half each week. I think most of us can fit an hour and a half in throughout the week. Yeah, so we just started with that. And I set them up on the Google shared spreadsheet, and we started rolling.
What type of exercise or movement were you doing at the time? Like you said 2 hours and 15 minutes. That's like, where'd you come up with that number?
That was just a number of 2 hours and 15 minutes of anything. I'd lived down the shore. It was the COVID summer. So I lived at their shore house. We bought a stationary bike.
Nice.
July, we would go on it here and there. And then it just was sitting there. It became a coat rack, as many bikes do.
Yeah.
And then I moved back to Philly, bought myself a stationary bike, and the same thing happened where it's like you use it and then you stop using it. And I'm like, what can get me on this bike? We had, along with the bike, we had the Peloton app.
Okay.
So we had access to all these workouts. We would put like our laptops up and do the rides, and they have like free weights and stuff like that, anything from like 5 to 60 minutes. So like just doing that was my mindset, was just ride the bike, add in like do a 20-minute, there's a lot of 20-minute rides and stuff like that. So that was my mindset, to just fill it out that way and continue to use, the Peloton workouts.
Okay. So you were just saying, hey, if I could chunk away a couple of these 20-minute rides throughout the week, I'll hit my 2 hour and 15-minute goal.
Yeah.
Were you doing anything else? Like, were you going for walks, playing basketball? I know you said you did that a lot.
Yeah. Like I would add basketball on there. I had a gym membership and I started using that.
Okay.
And yeah, I started using the stationary bike that I had in my apartment. And then we had weights in the basement that I would start to use. So I just started to use these things. I started to do like 5-minute morning warm-ups and stuff, like things that like I would have laughed at. The thought of doing before this, like why would I do a warm-up if, like what's the point of doing a warm-up? Like what's 5 minutes going to do? Like that's not going to get you healthy, or that's not going to get you a six-pack. And yeah, so I just kind of like opened up my mind of like different things. And yeah, when you have like a short-term goal, like your mind just starts thinking of ways to accomplish that. And I love like figuring out, even like 4.5 years in, like just like looking for new ways to accomplish that goal.
Yeah, and this phrase wasn't mine. I forget who came up with the name, but exercise snacks. I love to do that because, like you said, your warm up, right? Like, that's 5 minutes that was going towards your goal of 2 hours and 15 minutes, and that adds up over time.
Right.
So I understand that, like, I have access to gym equipment really whenever I want, and not everyone does. But I think we can maybe step away from the fact that your workout has to be an hour long in a certain scenario. Like exercise is exercise. So you waking up and doing a 5-minute warm up is exercise. If you are brushing your teeth and you do some body weight squats, or you take a 10-minute break in the middle of work to go for a walk or do some push-ups, that's exercise.
Yeah.
Right? Don't discredit yourself if it's not a 1 hour structured, perfect thing. I think you were able to catch on to that pretty quickly. You're like, hey, if I want to accumulate these minutes, let's do 5 minutes every single morning when I wake up.
Yeah.
Right? Does that sound about right?
Yeah, exactly that. Everything had added incentive, really. I would sometimes, even now, like I'll just wake up and go out in the living room and just start the timer, start doing a stretch, see where that stretch leads me. Sometimes it leads into like a 15-minute warm-up type thing where I have like weights in my hand. I don't really know. But yeah, and it just kind of gets you going and gets you ready for the day. It also checks something off the list.
That's huge.
And it's like, then you're like, okay, I did this today. Now I can do this. Now I can do that. And I'm not perfect with it. Like this morning, I didn't do any like warm-up type thing. But I have all this past week, the last 5 days of like work that I've accomplished. And I can be proud of that, even if I skip something.
Hey, hope you're loving the episode so far. Thanks for spending some time with me. I got a quick favor to ask. Make sure you're subscribed to the podcast because that's how I know you're getting value from the show. And this way, you never miss an episode. All right, now back to the show. Yeah, that's huge. I mean, you touched on a couple things. Number one, I love lists.
Yeah.
So I'm a big like, hey, did I get it done? Cross it off the list type of deal. And that's why exercise, I believe, is very empowering earlier in the day because it's a catalyst to other things, right? You got up, you did your short workout, your warm up. Not only are you feeling better, mentally you're in a good space because, man, like I can do this.
Right.
It checks something off my list, so I'm closer to my goal. And then it builds the momentum to say, well, shit, if I did this, what else can I do? Now you're taking on tasks that aren't even directly related to fitness, right? It might be business, it might be your relationship, whatever it is. I just think it's a catalyst to all other areas of life. What was your dad doing? Was he spinning?
Yeah, and I think that's primarily what he still does because he has his own bike and he's got the Peloton app still. So he primarily does the bike, does it with the arm workouts. I've gotten him into like just YouTubing free weights and stuff, but haven't gotten him to like go to a gym or like do a fitness. I think he's maybe done a couple, but yeah, it's definitely made a huge impact on his life because he was 61 then, he's 65 now, and he's way more mobile and active and just has more energy.
Wow.
Yeah.
So did you hit your goal? Did you both make it through the week? That first week?
Yeah, we did.
Okay.
Yeah, we actually, we're 4.5 weeks in, and he's only had to Venmo me twice, and I had to Venmo him once, and that was like...
In 4.5 years?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Because I still remember the time I had to pay him, and I was so angry. It was like 3 years ago, and I paid him in cash. I was just, because it was like, oh, I committed to this goal, and I didn't hit it, and I just made me angry. But yeah, it's a goal where you're aiming for consistency, and it's like a baseline goal. Mm-hmm. So you're not like, if my goal when I first started was 5 hours, then I might have gone 2 weeks and burn out, texted my dad like, hey, I can't do this. But I kind of met myself where I was at that moment and did what I could and slowly improved from there. And even now, so my goal could be, I would love to hit 10 hours a week, but that's not realistic. Mm-hmm. So keeping a realistic goal is what keeps you stacking the wins and feeling good and
Yeah.
building that momentum.
I think what I'm hearing, right, and I try to relate to my own like life and mindset, and being in the personal development world, you do hear a lot of people talk about like set big audacious goals, right? And I think that's important. But what I think gets misconceived, and it did for me at first, was you can't do all that at once. Like the whole like, yeah, you'd love to do 10 hours a week, right? But that's like not feasible for me right now, mentally and physically. What you were doing with your strategy was not only do you get to pick the type of exercise, you get to set a goal that's yours. You didn't tell your dad, hey, we're both going to do 5 hours this week, and if you don't, you're screwed. You have to pay me. Right. You pick your number, I'll pick my number. But what was important is the deadline, right? When it comes to setting big goals, it's not always about like, oh my God, I want to make $100 million or I want to lose 100. Yeah. It's like you could have that, but the big goal thing that you did was set the time. Hey, this is due at the end of the week. We need to hit this milestone by the end of the week. And I think that goes unnoticed, because what I think a lot of people do is they have a big goal. I want to lose 50 pounds, but then they never give themselves time blocks to get to on the way to 50 pounds. Yeah. It's just this overarching goal of I want to lose 50 pounds. And then if we don't move the needle, we get anxiety and we stop. So you kind of hack that in a sense where it's like, hey, remove the fact that I think I need to lose 40 pounds. Get that out of here. I want to hit 2.5 hours, or what was it, 2 hours and 15 minutes in 1 week. How do I get that done? Yeah. So now the big goal is still there. You still always wanted to lose that 40 pounds. But the focus is now 2 hours and 15 minutes. What do I got to do to get that done? Yeah. And it becomes a game. So where did this go? Where did this take you and your dad? What journey did it bring you down?
So a month or two in, my dad texted me, and he's like, I can't imagine how many workouts I would have put off if I didn't have the system, which was great because he doesn't send like texts like that. So that was great. I definitely took a screenshot of that. But it led to slowly increasing our goals. Like I think I went 3 or so months and I added like 15 minutes on or something like that. And he did the same thing. Always was lower, and his goal is much lower than mine now, which it should be. Everyone's at different stages of their lives. But within 18 months, I lost 40 pounds. And then he lost 30, and he also lost 8 strokes off his golf score, which is what he's probably most proud of. So I
mean, look. When you're playing good golf, it feels good, right? Anyone who golfs out there, it's enjoyable to hit the ball well. So if you can do that, that's a win, right?
Yeah. I wish I was good at golf. He's still better than me, so I need him to get a little bit older.
Yeah. But no, that's incredible. I mean, 40 pounds, and then he lost 30 pounds of weight. I mean, that kind of speaks for itself that the habit was working. So after 18 months, you and your dad are like feeling better. He's golfing better. You both lost weight. Did you start to like when did a light bulb moment go off for the transition into an app, or like tell us about the transition to that?
Even before the 18 months was up, we both like a month or so in, we knew we were on to something here. Not like business wise, but like for each other, just we knew that we kind of figured out what would work for us. And we were still not where we wanted to be, but that kind of no longer mattered because we knew where we were going, and we knew we just had this system that was going to kind of take us to our goal. So that like it wasn't like 18 months like went on the scale. Yes, I'm here, and then I'm kind of done. Like it was well before then where I was like I felt good and confident, and even if I wasn't at the weight I was at, I was still like not insecure or not confident being on the beach or anything. Like I knew if I wasn't where I was right now, I was going to be where I wanted to be. So that was probably the best feeling. Your goals kind of change when you put yourself on the right trajectory. You kind of stop thinking long term. You stop overthinking really, and it's almost like a freeing feeling.
I think what I'm hearing from what you're saying is confidence comes from the ability to know that you're in control.
Yeah.
Right? If I asked you to go do 10 squats right now, you'd be like, what do you mean? I could do that. No problem. With your body weight. That's no problem. And you mentioned that going to the beach was no longer like a big thing on your mind. And you also said that you still wanted to lose more weight, but that was no longer the focus. And that to me is a huge win.
Yeah.
We deal with a lot of people here doing, transformational stuff, and weighing themselves on the scale is a good measure in the part of the whole thing, but some people get emotionally attached to that scale and the number that's on it. Whereas I've gotten to the point where I could step on a scale and it means absolutely nothing to me, because I know I'm in control of what is going to lead me to feel better. So that's kind of what it sounds like you unlocked that power during that time. Am I right?
Yeah, exactly that. Like I haven't been on a scale in years. Yeah, it like no longer matters. Like you said, you're in control. Um, Before a lot of everything, there's so many external factors that would kind of control what I would do. If I wouldn't start working out because I would be like, oh, well, I have that vacation coming up. Or I'm going, there's that wedding this weekend. I'm going to be hungover for 4 days. Why even start working out? Or if it's that week after the wedding and it's like Tuesday and you start feeling better, it's like, why start now? This week's a wash. So yeah, this system allowed us to just be like, no, like you committed to this, to X number of minutes, do what you have to do. You know, there's some weeks that are better than others, or some weeks where the workouts aren't as committed, or I don't push myself as much, but I'm always, like you said, in control and confident that I'm still headed in the right direction.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, to me, that's everything. I know there's a lot of anxiety, of depression, different mental states that people are in. And I'm not saying that some of them aren't, severe, and they are. But when you are in control and you no longer point the finger at what's the weather, it's this, and you embody that control, I mean, that's a good feeling. You know what I mean? There's no longer, oh my God, am I going to lose this weight? It's like, no, I've proven that I could do this. You kind of rewire your brain in a sense where it's like, I'm the guy who's going to make this happen. So now, I mean, let's kind of bring it back to where we are here. I don't want to jump right to it, but when did you say this needs to be an app? Because was the Google Doc not working as well, or what happened?
I knew I was on to something 3 years in or whatever. The time frame was, it was November 2023 when I first had the idea. But I would show my friends the spreadsheet and they would like look at it and be like, this is craziness. Like, what is this? And like, but I'd be like, it's really not. And I couldn't really explain it or articulate it well, because I'm like, this would work for you. Like, and then I just had a thought one day. I was walking around, maybe walking the dogs, and I was just like, you could make this an app. And I don't have like coding experience or anything, but I knew that like with AI, maybe I could figure it out. And then I just started YouTubing how to build an app, and ran in circles for a good while, and found a company that I partnered with that taught me how to build it. And that was 6 months of building it. And it was great because I didn't just ship it to a developer to build it. I kind of have my hands in it, and it's definitely a work in progress. What it was when I launched last May to what it is now is like night and day.
Really?
I'm sure there's friends who joined right away that would tell you that this was not nearly as easy as it is now. But so I had that idea and kind of just did what it took to figure it out. But I knew I wanted to make it easier for people. Once I started building the app, I gave like a test version to my dad, and me and my dad would use it, and a few other people, and it was just so much more fun than the Google spreadsheet. Just to like see their progress. There's like colors and stuff, like as you get closer to 100%, it's just like, it was just so much easier and more fun. And then as the app innovated, like putting like notifications in, like now I'll wake up and I'll see like if like 3 friends hit halfway to their goal, or like today is Friday, so there's like a few people that are hitting their goal. It's like, oh, well, if they're doing it, then I can do it too. But yeah.
Yeah, so you went from being an accountant on a spreadsheet to playing a game on an app, essentially.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot easier. Did your friends who thought the spreadsheet was crazy, did they get the app right away and kind of understand it then?
Yeah, okay. For sure. I have really good friends who like subscribed right away and gave me feedback, harsh feedback. I still get harsh feedback, which is great. But yeah, a lot of my friends bought into it, and they were like in the summer, like they were on and off of it. But there seems to be like, there was like a turning point maybe in like the fall where people really like started committing, and like a lot of people have like these really long weekly streaks now that are going, and just kind of buying into the system, and it's working. Like I have one friend who, for his job, he's on TikTok a lot, and it's just like, I don't see him in person a lot, but like I'll see him on the videos, and it's just like the weight is like melting off.
Wow.
And yeah, it's great to see that that it's working.
That's incredible. Yeah, and I mean, obviously it started off with you, your dad, local friends, and then it kind of, will catch on from there if it's, people are enjoying it. Tell us about like the you don't have to go too in depth into the app itself, but tell us about the basic functions of it. Like, how does it work? What do you need to know to use it as a stranger?
Yes. So you when you go on the app, basically what worked for my dad and I was the partnership
Okay.
aspect of it. Having that commitment from both our ends is what worked for us. But you can download the app and go on it and use it just yourself. There's like a leaderboard page so you can like compare yourself to others. But for I guess the best for like the best results is if you download the app, you have a friend who is committed with you to download it, or you have a group of people. Like I'm on a few different groups, like college friends, high school friends, shore friends, and who are like-minded and want to get in shape as well. Because if you ask 20 people, probably all 20 are going to be like, yes, I want to get in shape.
Right.
But everyone goes at it individually, and it just makes it so much harder and so much more grueling to go at it by yourself. So it just having that buddy with you, or friend or group, to join the app with you is what makes it fun. So you can go on the app, start a team, send an invite out to somebody, or you can send an invite out to someone, or someone can download the app and then they can search your team and join your team that way. So yeah.
So essentially, the main goal is that the collaborative effort between two people, because you were doing it not versus your dad, but with your dad. So it's like you could technically download it and look at the main leaderboards and use that as motivation, but you're on a team or you're with another person and you're both using the app, and I've downloaded it and it seems pretty straightforward, where it's like, hey, this is the activity that I'm doing and this is how long I'm doing it, and you can track it. It's minimal buttons. It's not crazy to understand. It's like, all right, I'm going for a walk or I'm weightlifting, and I saw it has a timing feature, or you can plug in the time yourself, right?
Yeah, so you can, if you want to like start a timer, like say I'm about to walk into a like one of your classes, I could click the specific class and then start the timer, and then go to my phone afterwards, stop it, and then just click add, and then like it's just like fun, where like whatever you add, then you see like the percentage go closer and closer to 100% to whatever your goal is. And yeah, a lot of my friends are continuing to give me feedback and stuff, making it more innovative and easier to kind of scroll through recent activities. Just click. A lot of people do the same things throughout the week.
Yeah.
So if like every day I'll do a warm up, I'll just scroll through warm up 5 minutes, or if it's more than 5 minutes or less, like I can adjust it like that. So
Right.
yeah, just making it as simple as possible.
Okay.
Yeah, just making it fun.
Yeah, so it's like you get to see, you go in, you set your goal, whatever it is, and like we talked about before, it doesn't have to be anything extreme, and then you see your dial getting closer to that 100% mark as you do it. So like, that's motivating. You said the colors are there, so it's like, it's stimulating to say, I'm doing something, I'm moving the needle, I'm crossing things off the list, so to speak, and getting to your goal. And then what's cool is, like you mentioned, you can see your leaderboard of the people that you're in the group. Where do you rank with your consistency? And what was the other point I was going to make? It was the consistency with the others, and then
Like social proof.
the notifications. And you mentioned the notifications. Like, you might get a notification that your friend is halfway done their goal.
Yeah.
It's like, well, shoot, let me get up and go do something.
Right.
That's awesome. I think it's very, very intuitive, and very, I don't want to say simple in a way that like undermines the power of it, but I think people need simple.
Yeah.
I think we can overcomplicate things, where people will ask me like, what specific like exercise do you need to do to build your biceps? Or like, you can't really spot reduce fat, unfortunately, but what we can do is be consistent, and this tool through your app is a very good way to do it. So where are you at now in the sense of, is it ready to go to the world? Like, can anyone use this app, right?
Yeah, it's on the App Store, Google Play. We innovated in a way where whole communities can use it. Teams, there's no number of partners that you can have on a team.
Cool.
So I'm envisioning different community groups, even like high school teams. When it's off season, like the coach could be kind of the leader of the team and keep people accountable that way. Fitness clubs, having the ability to just plug in whatever class you do and then see your time go up that way. just really just adding incentive to everything you do. But yeah, it's funny. When I first launched the app, I was kind of I thought the process worked because it was just my dad and I. Like, I knew he was going to hit his goal, or at least come close. You know, like, there's some weeks people are sick and stuff, have COVID, and something happens, and obviously, like, you're not going to, charge someone for that. But I thought it had to be one person and another person. And then when I launched the app and I made the feature where you can have more and more people, it was just that much more fun. Now there's like teams, and then like the community aspect of it, I think is great.
I love that.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I think we all have a little bit of that competitive nature to us, and not in the sense of comparing. You're not necessarily comparing yourself to others where you're going on and saying, oh, look at them. That's like social media. That's what that does. But this allows you to ignite your competitive nature, and not only do it against the big leaderboard, the people who are in your group or your partners, but with yourself. It's so cool, I think, to see consistency build. So clearly on the app, it's able to track, hey, you've hit X amount of weeks in a row or whatever. And it's like, it's more proof to yourself. It's an app showing you, hey, I can do this.
Yeah.
Right? Earlier in our conversation, you were mentioning things where it sounded like you had this negative bias about yourself. Like, I'm not going to do this. Like, I can't do this for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And now you can. It's like, how empowering is that? And how much is that worth to your health, your well-being, and the quality of your life to build that type of mindset, right? I think that's immeasurable to change someone's life. And maybe you haven't thought about that, or maybe your focus was just on health, but I see this being, a catalyst for total improvement in someone's life, to be honest.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah. It's just a mindset shift, and there's so much you can pinpoint to health and fitness and what you can fix, and what was a spreadsheet, now an app, is really all I focus on. And it's like a trickle down effect in other areas of life. Like, I try and eat healthy, but I really don't eat healthy, especially on the weekends. But I have the app, and that's what gives me confidence to have the freedom to not count calories and stuff like that. And yeah, you mentioned like consistency and stuff, and that words like that would like make me like almost want to throw up before this. And like discipline, it's just like, it's like boring and hard and tedious. And I didn't know this before going in. Like, when I created the spreadsheet, this is stuff that I could label after I launched and went 4 years having it. But like, really, I just like gamified the process and made like the small, tedious, boring things worth it. And it's working.
No, I mean, it definitely is. I mean, you can see it for yourself. And what are some of the feedback that you might have gotten from? Is there anyone who you never met before this who's using it, and what's their feedback?
Yeah, there's people that I don't know or have connected with on social media that are like, oh, I love the app, and I love seeing that. A lot of people are kind of buying into the system where like fitness isn't like black or white. Like, it's not like you have to do a certain program, like you have to follow a certain program. Monday, I'm going to the gym for 60 minutes. Tuesday, I said I was going to do cardio for a half hour. Wednesday, I'm doing core for 45 minutes. Like, you can kind of screw up there, and everything's okay. Like, life's going to go on. And the reality is, things like that are going to happen. And just having like a week time frame gives you enough time to like, oh, if you have a bad couple days, you can kind of add on there. But yeah, it's great to see that there's people that aren't friends that are buying into it and loving it as well. Kind of, it's almost like tricking yourself into getting fit.
Yeah, no, I mean, whatever you have to do, right?
Yeah.
It's all about the mindset. And what I try to tell people is there's no one way to do anything, right?
Yeah.
There's no one diet, there's no one exercise plan. But if you can find something that you enjoy and realize that, like, let's say you like going for a hike, you might like kayaking, someone might like pickleball. That's all exercise, right? But when we do it consistently is when we get the results that we want. So your app and your system is allowing people to understand, oh my gosh, I can go for a hike on the weekend and play pickleball a couple times a week and still be healthy. Yes, it doesn't need to be in this box of it must be 1 hour long, it must be this type of thing. And this is coming from someone who runs fitness classes. These are great for a lot of people. But for a lot of people, they find themselves, oh man, the gym is intimidating, or I can't do that, or I don't have a full hour. Don't need any of those excuses anymore. Just use the app and hit your goal, So that's pretty incredible, man. Before we wrap up here, where can people find you, reach out to you, learn more about the app, or just ask any questions that they might have?
Yeah, so I'm primarily on my hub is Instagram, compete_NG. And then I have links to the app and pretty much every video that I do will go on at least Instagram and there's other platforms, but that's a good way to reach out. And if you DM me, I'll answer you as fast as I can.
Yeah, and I should have brought this up before, but say the name of the app again.
Compete NG.
Okay, so compete, like competitive compete NG. Cool, and of course we'll put the links to his Instagram profile for the app directly that you can just download, and it's so simple. You don't need really any, explanation to download the app and get set up right away. But like Nick said, he's here if you guys have any questions. And I'm looking forward to hearing some stories and talking to some folks who have never met Nick and are making an impact in their life. So thank you so much for taking the time, man. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you. This was a lot of fun.
Awesome, man. Hey, thanks for spending some time with me on today's episode. I hope you got a ton of value from it. If we're not connected on Instagram yet, let's change that. Hit me up at Sean Calhoun _. That's SEAN Calhoun _. Shoot me a DM. Let me know what you think of the show or if you got any questions about how to level up your health. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you on the next episode.